The air hangs thick with the scent of lotus and myrrh, a fragrant shroud clinging to the torchlight that flickers across the faces of the assembled priests and priestesses. My heart pounds in a frantic rhythm against my ribs as I kneel on the cool stone floor of the temple's inner sanctum. My linen shift, freshly bleached and smelling faintly of natron, feels thinly against the weight of this moment. Before me stands the high priestess, her eyes dark and knowing, reflecting the dancing flames. In her hands, she holds a sistrum, its gentle rattle the only sound besides my own shallow breaths. The walls around us are adorned with vibrant depictions of the goddess Isis, her wings outstretched in protective embrace. Nefert, the high priestess's voice resonates throughout the chamber, low and melodious. You stand at the threshold. You have walked the path of the devotion, studied the sacred texts, and offered your heart to the Mother of Magic. I lowered my gaze, my hands clasped tightly in my lap. I have, Mother. My voice, though soft, holds a tremor of anticipation. The high priestess nods slowly. The trials have tested your resolve. The vigils have strengthened your spirit. Now comes the final step, the embrace of Isis herself. A young priest steps forward, bearing a silver ankh, the symbol of life. He approaches me and gently places it against my forehead. A wave of coolness washes over me, followed by a sensation of profound peace. Feel the breath of the goddess, the high priestess intones. Let her wisdom flow into you. Let her power become your own. The sistrum begins to shake in the high priestess's hand, its delicate sound growing in intensity, weaving a tapestry of shimmering notes. The torchlight seems to pulse in time with the rhythm. I close my eyes, focusing on the feeling of the ankh against my skin, on the scent of the sacred oils, on the vibrations that fill the air. A voice, ancient and resonant, echoes in my mind, not through my ears, but deep within my being. Welcome, daughter. The veil thins. Embrace the mysteries. I gasped softly, my eyes fluttering open. The faces of the priests and priestesses seem to glow with an inner light. The high priestess smiles, a radiant expression that eases my fear. Rise, daughter of Isis, she says, her voice filled with warmth. You are now one of us. I'm Courtney.
And I'm Brandon, and welcome to the Time Travelers Club. So, this time we are shifting away from the stories of Isis. As fun as those have been, we've had a lot of salads, gender transformations, almost essays on our cousins and nephews and stuff, but we're leaving that behind. And we're going to focus on the physical locations associated with the Great Mother Goddess. The construction and prominence of temples dedicated to Isis throughout ancient Egypt, particularly during the New Kingdom and extending into the Greco-Roman period, powerfully reflect her increasing central role in the Egyptian pantheon. These sacred structures, such as those in Philae, served as a vibrant hub of worship, illustrating Isis's multifaceted importance as a goddess of magic, motherhood, healing, and protection. Through their intricate reliefs depicting her mythical acts, from resurrecting Osiris to protecting Horus from his creepy uncle, these temples not only honored the deity, but, I mean, sometimes she tried, bless her heart, with the harpoon and everything, you know?
I mean,
sometimes we needed protection from Isis trying to protect us, but, you know, hey.
Just a little bit.
You know, we learned we're not good at harpooning. We are very good at conjuring seed. Good for her. But we're good at other things. But these temples not only honored honored the deity, but also reinforced her vital connection to kingship and the very cycle of life and death, solidifying her position as Egypt's most revered and enduring goddess. For this first location, picture this. You're in Upper Egypt, which just upper, lower, confuses people. People think upper because we're so used to maps. So you might think the upper part would be the northern part, the part on top on a map. That is not the case. Upper Egypt actually refers to the southern region because they're thinking in terms of elevation. So Upper Egypt would be south. So that's going to be the more mountainous areas, further inland. That's Upper Egypt, okay? Specifically, the Canaanite government. The Dendera Temple complex is situated on the west bank of the Nile River, about 60 kilometers, or for us here in America, roughly 37 miles north of Luxor, or ancient Thebes. If you're looking at a map of Egypt, find Luxor, okay? Then head north along the Nile's western bank, and you'll come to a small town called Dendera. The temple complex itself is a bit southeast of the modern town. It's truly an oasis of ancient grandeur in a relatively rural setting. The entire complex is quite substantial, covering about 40,000 square meters, which that's roughly about 120,000 square feet. So, for us, again, here in America, that's rough because, what I learned in school was that meter is sort of almost 3 feet, but not quite. But so, we know that not entirely accurate. Just keep that in mind. And this is encompassed by a stout mud brick wall, and it's a testament to its former importance and need of protection. So, let's zoom in on the Temple of Birth of Isis itself, which is a smaller but incredibly significant structure within the larger Dendera complex. It should be found to the west of the main temple of Hathor, which, as we kind of talked before, she took on a lot of those aspects herself later, so it makes sense why she would be there. While the main temple of Hathor often steals the spotlight, the Temple of Birth of Isis offers a more intimate look at specific aspects of Egyptian mythology and cult. One fascinating aspect of the Temple of Birth is its unique orientation. Unlike many Egyptian temples with a singular access, this temple, due to its older substructures, has two main accesses at east and west and north and south alignment. This means it theoretically opens to all four cardinal directions. The primary entrance and hypostyle halls are aligned with the hierarchical fronts. Heliacal is the word I'm looking for. Rising of Sirius, the star of Isis, as we talked about last time, in the eastern sky. The celestial event was crucial as it heralded the annual Nile inundation and the Egyptian New Year. Conversely, the west side aligns with the descent point of Osiris, Isis's husband. The north-south axis, often marked by Hathor heads, symbolically connects Hathor with her father Ra to the north at Heliopolis, and her consort Horus to the south at Edfu. This multi-directional design is thought to emphasize Isis's universal sovereignty. While many temples add a this is where I'm going to struggle. Mamisi, like memories, Mamisi, birth house. That's how I'm remembering it. It's not right, but that's how I'm doing it. The Temple of Birth of Isis is here is effectively functioning as one, but with specific focus. It's a place where the divine birth of Isis herself is celebrated, particularly her emergence from the primal birth mount. It also served as a birth house for Horus, the son of Isis and Osiris, during the earlier periods, with blocks from that earlier Mamisi even reused in its current structure. This highlights the recurring theme of divine birth and the renewal central to Isis's cult. The temple consists of three main chambers. The Perwer, or Great House, which would have been a significant space, perhaps for the important rituals or housing of primary cult objects. Next was the Pernu, or House of Water. As the name suggests, the chamber was likely associated with water rituals, perhaps purification ceremonies or symbolic representations of the primordial waters from which creation emerged. And then there was the Perneser, or House of Fire. This suggests a connection to light, warmth, or specific fire rituals. You guessed it. Though its exact purpose is still debated amongst Egyptologists. So, there's also an offering vestibule, typically found in front of these chambers. Like all the temples at Dendera, the Temple of Birth of Isis is a canvas of intricate reliefs. You'll find scenes of Isis's divine birth, and these carvings are central to the temple's purpose, obviously, vividly depicting the goddess's emergence and her role as the primordial deity. There is also depictions of Horus's childhood. Given its Mamisi function, you'll see imagery of Horus's miraculous conception and infancy, often with, you would hope anyway, with his mother Isis. I mean, I feel like she had to be there, right?
Yeah, there's kind of a necessity to feed a baby, because that happens.
Well, I mean, again, if you're claiming you're someone's mom,
mm-hmm.
I feel like you have to be a part of that process somehow.
Just a little bit, you know.
And not saying you can't be adopted or anything like that, because even if it's an adoption scene, you kind of have to be there. But, you know, like, you have to at least sign the paperwork. But, you know, divine, even with this whole divine, miraculous conception stuff, I feel like she had to be there, so it's good that she was depicted. But, you know, just keep that in mind, historically, not always the case. You know, because women are prepared to eat wombs, and that's about it, typically. Because history's a bag of dicks. So,
appropriate.
In essence, the Temple of Birth of Isis is a smaller but highly focused architectural gem within the Dendera complex. Its specific dedication to Isis's birth, its unique multi-axle layout, and the detailed narratives carved into its walls offer a profound glimpse into the theological intricacies and artistic achievements of the Ptolemaic and the Roman periods in ancient Egypt. That's right. A lot of temples to Isis that still exist today, I found were roughly from these periods. Mm-hmm. You know, Isis, like, as a myth and a cult, of course, existed way back, like all the way to the Old Kingdom. But that cult, that Hesioid, really didn't come into full bloom until the New Kingdom, at least.
And you see that all the time, because you're not going to necessarily have the appropriate associations with a specific god, or the idea of them and that they represent don't actually come to fruition until much later. So that is human behavior.
So with that being said, like, a lot of the Old Kingdom temples that still exist, because again, a lot of them don't. So this is a little fun fact about me. When I was a wee baby, a wee lad, I was going to be an Egyptologist. I didn't know that's what it was called. I just knew that I was going to be Indiana Jones in Egypt. That was my dream. That was my goal. And so therefore I planned it, because I was neurodivergent. And so I had already figured out by middle school that I probably wasn't going to do Old Kingdom stuff, because it was just really hard to find stuff, and I don't have the attention span for that, and I want glory, so I wanted stuff. But yeah, so that's kind of like a fun little quirk fact about Old Kingdom is, yes, while ironically the pyramids from the Old Kingdom are kind of like the first in the Sphinx, or like the first image you think of in your head when you think ancient Egypt, but they're kind of the rarity. Mm-hmm. There's way more. I mean, it makes sense because the newer it is. But so, as with the New Kingdom, right, it makes sense. By the time we hit that point, right, there's a new guard. There's new gods. Now, and again, they were there, but I do find that really interesting with Egyptians. It's almost like their history correlates with their mythology a little bit. Like Ra and all them were that older generation, right? And then with the new kingdom, it's the newer generation. And it's not that they're dismissing those old gods or that they aren't important anymore, but it's almost like as far as like the actual power of like ruling, right? It goes from Ra to Horus and like, or Ra to Osiris and then Osiris to Horus. You know, so like it kind of shows like they have to have legitimacy within their own cosmology as well. And I find that interesting. But
no, it is. It definitely is. And I mean, like I've talked about this ad nauseum, but you know, actually passing the torch, passing the power to the newer generation. That should always be a peaceful transfer of power, but it doesn't happen all the time.
And you kind of get that with the Greeks, but it's almost like when the Greeks come into being, right? Like they already had this story of like there were Titans, and then there were the Titans' parents, and we already overthrew all of them, and now we have Daddy Zeus.
Yeah.
But there's not like a continuation, and then it went to Apollo or something, you know? Like there's no direct, like it stays there, and he's afraid of himself losing that power.
Yes.
Whereas that's not how the Egyptians did it, and I find that really fascinating. And then if you look at like the Near Eastern cultures, right, which that's a whole bag of worms, but or can of worms, whatever, you know, but like they adopt the gods with each new culture, you know, because it goes from like, it's really easy for us to be like, oh, well, they were the Mesopotamians. Yeah, they spoke completely different languages between these times, like whole different cultures, but they're adopting this older culture for legitimacy.
Yes.
So you go from like Sumer and the and then eventually it goes to like the Babylonians, who are a completely different culture. Then it goes to the Assyrians, who are a completely different culture. The Neo-Babylonians, who are a completely different culture. But like, yeah, it's almost like rather than like, oh, and this is our new god, and the old god's handing over power. It's like, nope, that we also worship this old god, and we call it a different name.
Yeah, I've never understood that. Like, yes, a singular god or a singular thought form or whatnot can go by multiple names, but just kind of like shoehorning it in, like, oh yeah, that was always there. It's just we called it a different name.
Well, it's because it's a legitimacy thing. Because they're like it's almost like an homage. Like we respect that you're the older culture, and we need your civilized people to work with our bureaucracy. So, especially if we're going to change a lot of things.
Yeah.
So it helps. We need the stability of it until we become the old guard. You know. So the Chinese kind of do a similar thing. You know, not to conflate peoples, but like those, it's sort of similar. It's how like you would see that with the Khan and like the Mongols because they are constantly invading and taking over, but every time they realize I need this bureaucracy because that's what is providing all this wealth. And then like within like 3 or 4 emperors, they become Chineseified, too Chinese, and then they break away from the Mongols.
Yeah.
Again, until the Mongols re-invade again, you know, and it's like and by the time they re-invade again, like that Mongol dynasty is long gone, and it's a new Chinese dynasty again. Like, and you see that over and over and over and over, right up until the modern era.
I mean, you could argue that is just human nature.
Yeah. So it is interesting that Egypt, though, kind of self-contained, and yes, they did have invaders and stuff like that with the intermediate periods and stuff, but even within then, like their cosmology kind of had to line up with what was going on in their world. Like, okay,
it was living and breathing with them versus just a mythology that built their foundation.
Yeah, that was either stagnant or just constantly adopted.
Exactly.
So I find that interesting.
And no, it's amazing. But now, let's embark on another detailed exploration. This time focusing on the absolutely stunning Temple of Isis at Philae. This place has a truly remarkable story, not just in its ancient past, but also in its very recent history. So, first off, let's get our bearings. The Temple of Isis at Philae isn't on its original island anymore. And that is a key part of the tale. Originally, it stood proudly on the island of Philae, which means the end in ancient Egyptian, marking the southernmost boundary of Egypt. This island was strategically located in the first cataract of the Nile River, just south of the modern city of Aswan in Upper Egypt. However, with the construction of the Aswan Low Dam, completed in 1902, and then the colossal Aswan High Dam, completed in 1970, the original Philae Island and its temples faced permanent submersion under the rising waters of Lake Nasir. This was a tragedy waiting to happen. But here is where it gets truly amazing. In one of the most ambitious archaeological rescue missions in history, UNESCO, in cooperation with the Egyptian government, undertook an incredible project between 1972 and 1980. They meticulously dismantled the entire temple complex, stone by stone, over 40,000 of them, weighing around 20,000 tons, and painstakingly reconstructed it on a nearby higher island called Agilika Island. If I said that wrong, I apologize. That's a word that's very foreign to me. So, when you visit the Temple of Isis at Philae today, you are actually seeing it on Agilika Island, which was landscaped to resemble the original Philae. It's a truly, it is a testament to modern engineering and international cooperation in preserving cultural heritage. To picture it on a map, find Aswan in southern Egypt. The High Dam is just south of Aswan, and the temple complex on Agilika Island is situated in the waters of Lake Nasir, directly behind the Aswan Low Dam, and before the High Dam, nestled along several other islands. You typically access it by a short and scenic boat ride.
That sounds so nice.
It does, and I wish we had that kind of preservation here, but I know damn well.
But then you think of like Palmyra, the ancient city there, and how different ISIS blew it all to hell. And I feel like nowadays you wouldn't see that anymore. I just feel like you just don't have that cooperation, I feel like, anymore, and that's kind of disappointing.
It's incredibly disappointing. I've seen the aftermath of what is it's like the Anunnaki statues and the frescoes and everything like that, and that just my little historian heart was broken.
Yeah. It's like, yeah, we've got pictures and things like that, but it's like, we are, with technology and stuff, all the time we're finding, things that we thought we knew about an object or a painting or something, then we have a new technology, and we just run a scan through it or something, and lo and behold, there's this whole new thing we learn. Just the idea of, we can sense color and stuff now, and it's all these things that are lost, we'll never know now. Because we don't know what technology is going to exist 50 years from now that we didn't have before, that allows us to answer questions we didn't even know we had. It's gone to all of us.
Yeah, and that is, I think, one of the most criminal things to happen to humanity, is destroying our link to the past, destroying our link to actual history, in a more physical and tangible form. Because,
to be fair,
go for it.
Whole lake, I was going to say, this whole dam, and yes, we are celebrating that they saved this temple. It was one of thousands. So, and things that, who knows, we don't even know existed, because tombs and stuff that were maybe lost. They're all underwater now. Whatever's there,
we'll never know.
Right, we'll
until
never know.
Maybe the Nile dries up, and then, oh my gosh, there's this, that, and the other. But the likelihood of that is,
well, they're finding that the whole this whole dam project may have been problematic, because in the short term it seemed great. But even at the time it was being done, there were like people were like, we've already got issues with the low dam.
Yeah.
You know, it's causing like silt to back up, and we're having a lot of issues down river. But they were like, no, this is great. We'll do it. And like, so it's like we may have destroyed all these artifacts, destroyed all this stuff potentially, right?
Mm-hmm.
For nothing. That's a debated thing. So
it is, and I think it is a worthy debate, because it is the preservation of history versus the
needs of the people at the time.
The needs of the people, and also the advancing technology of the people.
Yeah.
Which one do you preserve? Which one
I would
do
say,
you
and to be
endear?
fair, yeah, and to be fair, in this situation, I would say now, like, if it had 100% worked, the floods are under control, where people are getting well fed, and everything's going great, and there's no like issues with that, and I'd be like, okay. But there are issues with it, and people are still struggling. It's just a new struggle, and there's all this silting and things, and like it's causing like algae blooms and
because
so
it doesn't have the proper flow.
We created a problem for another problem, and so it's like we lost something and we didn't necessarily make it better. I don't know. I think it depends on who you ask and who's benefiting, but
fully agree.
No.
But the Temple of Isis at Philae is often regarded as one of the best preserved and most beautiful ancient Egyptian sanctuaries, largely due to its relatively late construction and its careful relocation. It primarily dates from the Ptolemaic and Roman periods, roughly 3rd century BCE to 3rd century CE, showcasing a fascinating blend of traditional Egyptian style with some Greco-Roman influences. Isis really had a blooming with the Ptolemaic period. She really did. So, as you approach the temple by boat, you're greeted by the gate of Nectanebo the First. I think I said that right. Nectanebo.
That's pretty good.
Dating to the 30th dynasty. Imagine 30 dynasties before you. That genealogy. Woo! Good stuff.
Yeah.
So, this is around 380 BCE. This is one of the earliest structures on the site, and it serves as a kind of vestibule or entrance kiosk. I can say Nectanebo, but I can't say entrance. Good Lord. It is characterized by its elegant colonnade and offers initial reliefs of the pharaoh Nectanebo I, offering to various deities. This gate once formed a larger part of a larger kiosk or pavilion that was likely welcoming pilgrims onto the sacred island. This is the massive, imposing gateway that forms the main entrance into the temple complex. It's an iconic feature of Egyptian temples. At Philae, the first pylon is 30 meters wide and 18 meters high. That's a big boy.
Oh, hang on.
Featuring colossal reliefs. On the eastern tower, you'll see a famous depiction of Ptolemy XII, Neo-Dionysos, smiting his enemies.
That is Cleo's daddy.
Yeah.
So, big name.
Big name.
First cameo.
In his presence of Isis, Horus, and Hathor, a traditional pharaonic scene symbolizing the king's triumph and piety. So he is only answering to them, pretty much. So the pylon also has two smaller scenes above, showing the pharaoh offering crowns and incense. In front of the pylon once stood two red granite obelisks, one which is now in Kingston Lacey, in England, which England stopped stealing stuff. The hieroglyphs on its base were crucial in deciphering the Egyptian language alongside the Rosetta Stone. Which,
I guess they got something.
Yes. I mean, the Rosetta Stone we'll have to talk about eventually, but
I have so many mixed feelings about it, because it's like, on the one hand, like, I don't want to fall into the colonialist. It's a trap, you know, where it's like, well, we saved it. Maybe, you know, but like,
No.
and on the other hand, you know, yes, it brought about the translation of the Rosetta Stone. But like, you know, it's none of this was all with good intent. It's because we thought that English, you know, England, Western. I'm saying us because it's Westerners, okay, in general, Europeans in general, just thought we had a right to this because we and we thought we were better than them, and it was just like a fun curiosity quinkadink for us, something to do because our nobles and rich people were so bored, and like we, in the process though, took away some people's culture, and then when they did appreciate. I think they always appreciated it, but when they were really starting to appreciate it and really starting to want a connection to that heritage, we go, no givesy backsies.
Yeah, it's more like, oh, would you get to return, you know, everything that your grandfather had? And it's just like, if I know that it was stolen, probably.
So I'm going to do like a 30-second side tangent and won't go too far down the rabbit hole, but I've actually had to do this speech a couple times for school. And it seems unrelated, but it kind of is. The Benin bronzes, big one in the art world right now. The British Museum has them. Benin wants them back. And this is the comparison I made. Because these bronzes serve as like a connection between them and their ancestors, which sounds quaint, but what we really mean is like these people's grandparents and parents and whatever, right? Imagine China came and invaded the U.S. And they took your parents. They saw your great-grandparents or your grandparents' headstones, and they thought, those are cool, I want them. And they brought them home. And then just put them on display in their houses for a while because they just thought they looked neat. And then eventually put it in a museum. Meanwhile, you can't go to your parents' resting place. Or grandparents' resting place, and they go, well, you can come over here if you want to see them.
Yeah, it's theft of culture. It is theft of culture.
Yeah, if we're going even bigger, imagine if someone just stole like the Lincoln Memorial or something. And especially with modern technology, we can make exact copies. They can scan it, and we can continue to study it without the original even being there. In the case of like the Benin bronzes though, like they not only made they made all of the copies for them. It's like craftsmen and everything. But like then they offered to even make new stuff. Like so it's like, hey, we just want our originals. We'll make exact copies of those originals with craftsmen who know how to make them. And we'll give you new stuff. Ooh, you'll get more if you just give us the originals back, pretty please. And we made a whole facility to house them. Ultra modern, using, mind you, British. Like, people who were of this culture and stuff, but also British citizens. So, like, where is the problem here? And they just go,
No, and you're absolutely right. And genuinely, it's greed. It's greed, and it's hoarding, and it is sickness. It is a brain sickness.
If it was pure greed, then I don't understand why they wouldn't jump on this, right? Because you already have, I know they have the scans, because you can actually go up to the British Museum website and pull this all up. Like they already have taken photos, scans, all of it, right? And so like you've already got all that. So you're gonna get brand new ones, right? Like, and exact copies. If it was just greed, like why not? You know? And you could go around toting like, oh, these are exact replicas, we did the right thing and gave it back, which would give you even more people coming in. But like, so then it's like, so, but their answer's still no. So like, to me it says that there's honestly a darker undertone to that. It's like, yeah, we want it because we own it and we took it. So it's like a symbol of conquest.
Oh, otherwise, that is so gross.
Right, because otherwise prove me wrong. If it was
No, and
greed,
you're right.
wouldn't you want more?
Mm-hmm.
If it's just about making money, then there's no reason not to do it.
No, and I hate to
Like, the
say that I
copies are
agree with you
made.
on that one, but the fact, yeah, conquest might be the answer there.
Like, because otherwise you have so much good publicity with this, like, it doesn't even make sense not to do it. Like, you could say how you worked with you're helping support craftsmen, you're helping support the culture, and you did blah blah blah. Like, there's no reason not to do it. If it's just profit and like advertising essentially that you're looking for.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you're causing more of a stink by holding on to them, because most people agree that
It does seem like conquest. It seems like a power play. It seems, unfortunately, like the last vestiges of colonialism that are just clinging to power, in my opinion.
I agree. And, that's me getting, like I said, like, to me, go back to your point, just give people back their stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Like, stop stealing stuff and give it back.
Agreed.
And we're getting down off the soapbox.
Just a little bit, just a little step down. But passing through the first pylon, you enter a vast forecourt. This space is flanked on its eastern side by a long colonnade with over 30 columns. These columns are particularly noteworthy for their varied and beautifully carved capitals, depicting different floral motifs like lotus and papyrus, reflecting the marshy environment of the Nile. The western side of the forecourt features the Mamisi, the birthhouse. This smaller separate structure to the west of the main temple is specifically depicted to the myth of Horus's birth and childhood. Its walls are adorned with exquisite reliefs depicting scenes of Isis giving birth to Horus in the papyrus marshes, nursing him and protecting him from dangers. These scenes emphasize Isis's role as a divine mother and protector, and Horus's legitimacy as the divine heir. The columns inside often feature Hathoric capitals, further emphasizing the theme of divine maternity. The smaller python? Wow, they're snakes now. Pylon. The smaller pylon leads from the forecourt into the main hypostyle hall. It also features reliefs, including Ptolemy XII making offerings to various deities. Beyond the second pylon is the majestic hypostyle hall, the grand space supported by numerous columns. These columns, like those at the forecourt, feature beautiful, diverse capitals. The ceiling here is particularly striking, often depicting astronomical scenes, including the sky goddess Nut and the solar Barques of Ra, traveling through the heavens by day and night. My mouth did not want to say that word at all. My goodness. It said, no.
It's a solar boat.
It's a solar boat. Barques. But the floor of the hypostyle hall would have represented the primeval mound, rising towards the sanctuary, creating a symbolic journey from the earthly to the divine. So it is that division, which is fantastic. Mm-hmm. The innermost and most sacred part of the temple is the sanctuary. This smaller, more intimate chamber would have housed the cult statue of Isis. The reliefs here are typically in raised relief, where the figures stand out from the background, contrasting with the sunk relief often found on exterior walls, which create deeper shadows in the bright sunlight. Scenes in the sanctuary focus on the most sacred rituals and the direct interaction between the pharaoh and the goddess. A pedestal, probably for Isis's sacred Barque, ceremonial boat, often remains here. Am I saying that right, Barque, or is it just bark?
I don't know. I would just say boat, but I think we could make it fancy. Clearly, English is our first language, guys. But I think I want to say it's bark.
Okay.
But I don't know.
maybe I'm a little too influenced by a couple of languages. I don't know. All right. So, to the east of the main temple, facing the Nile, is the graceful kiosk of Trajan, also known as Pharaoh's Bed. This unfinished, roofless pavilion with its beautiful columns is one of Philae's most famous structures. This was likely used as a place for Isis's bark to rest or for the performance of rituals overlooking the river. Its columns showcase hybrid capitals, blending Egyptian and classical elements, and its reliefs depict Emperor Trajan making offerings to Osiris and Isis. It's often called Pharaoh's Bed due to its pleasing proportions and open-air design. This complex and also includes smaller temples and shrines dedicated to other deities such as Hathor, Imhotep, the deified architect, not necessarily we're not throwing back to the mummy.
I was going to say, not the bad guy from me.
I don't know. He was hot. But I digress.
Especially when he burned up or dried up or whatever. He was real hot then.
and it also had Nubian deities as well, like Mandulis and Arsinophis, reflecting Philae's role as a pilgrimage site for both Egyptians and Nubians. So they both recognized how special this place was. And when you see things like that, that always draws my eye. When you see a temple built on a temple, built on a temple, built on a temple, and it covers multiple religious beliefs or just spanning centuries, just like we were talking about with, Dionysus several episodes back. That to me just creates the importance that something magical is there. As my magical mind, I'm just like, that's a place of power.
I mean, it also makes sense that it's just a crossroads. This is where, yes, it's a shared space between Nubians. You have these, it's border regions, right? Where you just have this natural blend of cultures and stuff like that. So it's going to hold significance to both, because both have to traverse this area. So it kind of makes sense to me. And just a quick aside, a lot of the times people get this impression that it's the Nubians just were copying the Egyptians, and honestly, I mean, that's also really not a great way of thinking. And there's more evidence, honestly, to suggest that the Nubians influenced the Egyptians in a lot of ways. There's also the flip side where they try to make, the Nubians were the proto-Egyptians, and the Egyptians had just, were ripping off the Nubians, and it's that's also not correct. There was just a lot of cultural exchange going back and forth, and they both had their own differences. So just throwing that out there. But yeah.
So, like most temples of this period, the Temple of Isis at Philae was constructed primarily from sandstone, quarried locally. Well, I should hope so. This durable stone allowed for the intricate carvings and reliefs that have survived remarkably well. The Temple of Isis at Philae stands as a powerful symbol of endurance, both in its ancient religious significance as one of the last bastions of traditional Egyptian religion. It remained active until the 6th century CE, so sooner than BC. And in its modern day survival through an incredible act of archaeological preservation. Visiting it today, especially by boat, offers a truly majestic experience, allowing you to walk through history and marvel at the artistry and devotion of the ancient Egyptians.
Yeah, and I mean, to be fair to the point of it being local, there are cases where a lot of times they were shipping stone from really far away, it depended on what they wanted for that project.
Yeah.
I will say that probably was just a happy coincidence that they just happened to be building it in the area where that stone typically was, quarried. Because you see sandstone being used in some of the pyramid construction. They did have to import it from this area. I mean, yes, they used a lot of limestone, but sandstone is a firmer substance than the limestone. So for some, and same thing with the granite, they had to go even deeper for that. So I mean, you know, crazy how far the lengths they would go.
Absolutely.
So next we're going to move on. All right, let's prepare for a truly unique and somewhat mysterious discussion about the Temple of Isis on Anti-Rhodos in Alexandria in Egypt. Unlike Dendera or Philae, which are impressive standing or relocated structures, the Temple of Isis on Anti-Rhodos is a submerged marvel, part of Alexandria's sunken ancient royal quarter. So, there's still a lot of research going on this area. So, imagine the bustling, vibrant ancient city of Alexandria, founded by, Alexander. Great, no brainer. Its grand eastern harbor, known as Portus Magnus, was once dotted with islands and peninsulas that housed the royal palaces of the Ptolemaic dynasty, including the famous Cleopatra. The island of Anti-Rhodos, meaning counter Rhodes, apparently in rivalry with the famous island of Rhodes, was one of such prominent features within this royal complex. Today, however, the Temple of Isis on Anti-Rhodos, along with much of Cleopatra's palace and other royal structures, lies underwater in Alexandria's eastern harbor. This dramatic fate was sealed by a combination of seismic activity, most notably a massive earthquake and tsunami in 365 CE, which caused large sections of the coastline and islands to subside and disappear beneath the Mediterranean waves. So, on a map, you'll be looking at the modern city of Alexandria's eastern waterfront. The remains of Anti-Rhodos and its temple are situated at a depth of approximately 5 to 8 meters, or 16 to 26 feet, below the surface, near the seafront of modern Alexandria, which I remember reading this and thinking, that is so shallow, Like, I don't know, for such, like, a lost thing, which we'll discuss in a minute, like, it doesn't really come up again until, like, really recent. Like, it's kind of wild that it took them that long to re-find it when it's just, like, right there. But,
it's right there, but if you think about it, like, modern technology for diving and anything like that that's new. Being able to actually go and explore under the water is so new.
Yeah, but, like, yes and no. I mean, like, I feel like they were doing it, modern diving as we know it, at least, at, like, the early 20th century. It just seems really weird, and I'll get to it in a minute. Like, I don't know. But, anyway, so, these incredible underwater archaeological sites that I've just been talking about have been extensively explored by marine archaeologist Frank Godillo and his team since the 1990s. So that's more what I meant. It was just like, it's really only in the 90s that we start seeing it again. And I feel like being a kid, you would see like all these like, oh, like recently discovered underwater city in Alexandria. And like, it's just wild to me that it was just like just feet below, and boats were passing over it all the time. It's kind of crazy. Makes you wonder what else is there, like out there in the world, that people are just sailing right over. But given its submerged status and the destructive forces that it endured, the Temple of Isis on Anti-Rhodos is not a standing structure like its counterparts. Instead, what we have are architectural remnants, sculptures, and artifacts found scattered on the seabed, providing tantalizing clues about its former grandeur. This is truly an archaeological detective story. So, this wasn't a public temple in the same vein as Philae or Dendera. It was a small, private temple located within the royal palace complex of Anti-Rhodos. This suggests it served the personal religious needs of the Ptolemaic rulers, especially figures like Cleopatra VII, who identify closely with Isis. It likely wasn't open to the general public, catering more to initiates of the Isis cult, this is the time where we're starting to see these like mystery cults and ISIS mystery cults being formed. So it's that blend of the Greek mystery cult culture and of course, this Egyptian goddess in the pantheon. So, with that being said, the temple was constructed from dressed limestone blocks faced with walls. There also evidence of elaborate interior decoration, including floor mosaics and sculpted friezes. This indicates the temple's luxurious adornment. While not fully standing, the presence of columns would have been given, and some reports mention a series of red granite columns, part of a ceremonial gateway to the island itself, which might have led or been near the temple. And that, again, makes sense because we know that the Lighthouse of Alexandria, for example, also had this red granite. But the real magic of Anti-Rhodos lies in the stunning artifacts that have been recovered, which directly attest to the temple's dedication and purpose. One of the most significant finds is a life-size granite statue of a shaven-headed Egyptian priest of Isis, holding a jar topped with an image of Osiris, an Osiris Canopus jar. This statue, found near the temple's entrance, is a powerful indicator of the temple's cult and provides a rare depiction of an Isis priest in professional regalia. It speaks volumes about the rituals performed here. A pair of granite sphinxes were also discovered flanking the entrance to this small temple. One of these sphinxes has been identified as bearing the features of dear old Papa, Ptolemy XII, Aleutes, also Neos Dionysus, so he's got a lot of epithets. He's the flute player, he's the new Dionysus, but I think Aleutes tends to be the one most people know him by, though. But this, of course, being Cleopatra VII's father. The sphinxes traditionally guarded sacred spaces and symbolized royal power and divine protection, perfectly fitting for a temple with a royal palace. Numerous votive items, ritual instruments, ceramics, coins, and other rich donations have been found in the temple's vicinity. These objects would have been offerings made to Isis by the royal family and other initiates. And to give you an idea of who these other initiates are, it would have been other nobles and upper advisors, upper echelons of bureaucracy. So it's not just a family temple, let's be clear. But it is going to be all your Jeffrey Bezos, all of your Elon Musks, all of your top level whoever the hell's running this joint now people.
What I could equate it to is probably any kind of monarchy in terms of if we're thinking European and how they have their own church within their castle walls. So it would just be for the nobility only. Nobody else would go there. It's not a public church.
Yeah, but I'd almost even take that and magnify it, because it's that's within a castle or a palace. This is a whole district.
Yes.
So it'd almost be like Wall Street. It's not the same people per se, but that size and the importance of said people within their culture, right? So yes, it's going to be these upper class Alexandrian nobles, and then of course the royal family, which was quite large, and the cadet branches of said family, and anyone who knows who, right? Anybody who's important, they would have access to this space. But anyway, so what we were discussing, the collapsed deposits, including broke pieces of sculpture, architectural elements, were largely protected by the sediment once they plunged into the water. This rapid burial by the earthquake and tsunami around 55 CE or possibly 365 CE for the final submersion. Collapsed deposits, including broken pieces of sculpture and architectural elements, were largely protected by the sediment once they plunged into the water. This rapid burial by earthquake and tsunami around 55 CE or 365 CE for the final submersion helped preserve the artifacts in a remarkable state compared to the structures on land that might have been recycled for building materials. And just to be clear about that, like, as dramatic as it seems that like one day there was this big earthquake and like it all just plunged, it's honestly not only how it didn't happen here, but in most cases that's not how it works. This is actually a really seismic area, which I feel like surprises me a little bit, but like, you know, I don't just associate northern Egypt with earthquakes, but I guess they're kind of frequent, especially in this area. But like for example, like the Lighthouse of Alexandria existed well until like the 1400s before it collapsed finally, from an earthquake. So like this area is always getting hit, and I feel like probably people moved away after a while, and by the time it finally the final one did it, like most of it had already been submerged. But actually these earthquakes and like the sediment being all stirred up because of it and then resettling actually is what kind of saved it. Otherwise they would have just been like cannibalized for other buildings, and you see that with even the Colosseum in Rome and stuff. So I mean, it's kind of cool that, like, thanks to nature, we were able to save it until we could appreciate it again. There's probably some kind of symbolism or metaphor or universal meaning in there somewhere. But so anyway, the Temple of Isis on Anti-Rhodos is intimately linked with Cleopatra VII, as we discussed a little bit earlier. As like we said, it was founded by her father, and she herself considered a site of prime importance, viewing herself as Isis Aphrodite. And while Mark Antony, wink wink, here's his first cameo, identified with Osiris Dionysus. This personal connection makes the temple a crucial site for understanding the religious and political landscape of Cleopatra's reign. After Egypt became a Roman province, Emperor Augustus even made donations to the sanctuary and converted it to the cult of Isis Eulobia, the goddess who protected the early yearly fleet bringing wheat from Egypt to Rome. There it is, demonstrating the continued religious significance even under Roman rule. I was thinking for a minute, like, why would he go out this way to protect this, other than superstition maybe? There it is. Because, fun fact, Augustus is the same guy as Octavian, and Octavian's kind of a douchebag, especially to Cleopatra. So, why are we going to preserve this thing that's a clear symbol of both her and his rival's power? Well, because it's now a symbol of the subjugation of Egypt, because Rome needs their wheat. There it is. So
we gotta get our bread, guys.
So, the Temple of Isis on Anti-Rhodos is a profound example of how archaeological discoveries can literally pull history from the deep. While you can't walk through its halls today, the salvaged artifacts and the detailed surveys of the underwater site allow us to reconstruct its appearance and understand its vital role as a private royal sanctuary of the powerful and pervasive cult of Isis in ancient Alexandria. It truly is one of the most enigmatic and exciting archaeological sites of the ancient world.
So that's it for this time. Next time, we will be taking a trip across the Mediterranean Sea to explore how Isis was received on the European continent and how surprisingly far her influence had spread. Maybe, just maybe, like the message of motherhood, unconditional love, and protection, this was something that was universally understood and craved.
What a quinky dink. But I'm honestly not surprised. The Romans, for sure, had mommy issues. And I think deep down they just wanted a hug.
Quite possibly.
I mean, they might stab their mom in the process, but they really did just want a hug. So
I have opinions. But as you know, we are a new podcast, and we are always looking to please the dark magic that is the algorithm. So wherever you are listening to this, whether it be Spotify, Apple, iHeart, or YouTube, if you like us, take the time to give us a positive review. It really does go a long way for us.
We will also be starting a Patreon soon, as soon as we have enough content in the backlog. There you can hear episodes of topics outside the main purview of the main podcast, create videos, do Q&As, sell merch, and in general get up to hijinks, so keep your eye out for that.
If you have any ideas, comments, or just want to say hi, you can reach out to us at timetravelersclubpodcast@gmail.com. We love it when people say hi, and as always, thank you so much for listening.
Bye for now.